Boeing's CEO has resigned amid ongoing problems with the company with the troubled MAX 737 aircraft. Dennis Muhlenberg is stepping down immediately. Board's current chairman, David Calhoun, will officially take over on January 13. The board said a change in leadership was necessary to restore confidence in the company as it works to repair relationships with regulators and stakeholders. The MAX was grounded worldwide in March after the second two crashes of its jet, killing a combined total of 346 people. The Calhoun has says that he strongly believes in the future of Boeing and the 737 MAX. Leadership change follows Boeing's announcement last week that it would halt MAX production in January. Dispute over a child's haircut ended with a gunfire on Saturday at a Texas barber shop. Deputies are looking for a man who shot an employee of a barber shop in the Houston suburb of Katy during an argument. Witnesses say that the argument was over a haircut given to the man's son. The alleged shooter left the barber shop in a grey four-door sedan, and the employee was shot 3 times and was in stable condition in an area hospital. The sheriff's office has not immediately responded to requests for information. Another shooting incident was reported at the U.S. and the altercation between two groups of people in the parking lot of the Dala Thai restaurant in the city of Spring Lake Park culminated in the shooting just after Sunday midnight. No one has been arrested following a shooting that left 1 person dead and 7 others injured. It was not yet known whether more than 1 person fired a gun, only that multiple shots were fired. In fact, the suspect or the suspects are not among the victims. According to the sheriff's officials, no weapon was recovered. Thousands of people rallied in Hong Kong on Monday against police action to freeze the money raised by a fundraising platform to support the city's anti-government protest. Spark Alliance, the crowdfunding operation used to support arrested protesters, was busted by the Hong Kong police over suspicion of money laundering. Officers arrested 4 people and froze around $8.97 million on Thursday. The organizers of Monday's rally in Edinburgh Place accused authorities of acting arbitrarily without any substantial evidence. Semi-autonomous Chinese territory has been in the grip of pro-democracy movement, which began over an extradition bill seen by opponents as part of increased meddling from Beijing for the past 6 months. Police used tear gas to disperse protesters in Ivory Coast's commercial capital after the Soros flight home was instead diverted to Ghana. Conflicting reports emerged late on Monday as to why Soros' plane did not land in Ivory Coast as scheduled after the former rebel leader spent more than 5 months away. The aviation officials insisted that it was Soros himself who requested the diversion. However, Soros, a former rebel leader and candidate in the presidential election next year, helped President Alassane come to power when then-President Laurent refused to step down during the violent 2010 to 2011 election. As a nationwide strike against government pension reform enters its 20th day, the French protesters scuffle with the police at a railway station in Paris. The union leaders have threatened to ramp up the action at oil facilities. Riot police have tangled with around 30 protesters at the station, which is one of the busiest stations in Paris. Protesters let off flares and fireworks, releasing smoke that drifted down into the station concourse. In Australia, bushfires have become synonymous with being known as the catastrophe of the decade. A number of small towns have reportedly sustained significant damage this weekend. Since September, Australia's bushfire emergency has killed at least 9 people, destroying hundreds of homes and scorching millions of hectares of land. Meanwhile, the firefighters have been struggling to contain over 100 blazes burning across several states. Homes and businesses have been destroyed by bushfires in South Australia's WION region. Rebuilding the region which has been destroyed by these wildfires will take between 5 to 7 years. In Adelaide Hills, a wine-growing region where 86 homes were destroyed, up to one-third of the region's vineyards were burnt, equivalent to around 1,000 hectares of vines. Emergency teams in the Galapagos Islands are working to contain a 600-gallon oil spill. This after a cargo vessel overturned while being loaded with containers. Galapagos, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, are home to some of the most unique and scientifically significant ecosystems on Earth. It's part of the Ecuador and located hundreds of miles off the country's coast. A storm brought scattered flooding and traffic accidents to Southern California roads on Monday while snow fell in the mountains. According to the National Weather Service, rainfall was moderate to locally heavy. A transient was rescued with only minor injuries after being trapped for 30 minutes when a huge tree fell in the Echo Park area of Los Angeles. Fire department noted there was wind and rain in the area but could not say whether the tree toppled due to the storm. A tree also damaged a residential building and utility fires, and winter weather advisories were issued for the interior mountains of Los Angeles and Ventura counties. Car crashed into a petrol station in eastern Bosnia on Monday, triggering a huge explosion that killed at least one person and injured 20 others. Several cars were destroyed, and police cordoned off the area soon after the blast near the town of Zvornik on the border with Serbia, fearing more explosions of gasoline and petrol storage tankers. Video footage from the scene showed a big plume of smoke billowing from the gas station. Traffic was halted during the police investigation. The petrol stations sold both gasoline and liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which many Bosnians use to fuel their cars because it is cheaper. At least 16 Honduran inmates were killed during a fight between armed gangs of prisoners. This is the second outbreak of violence to hit Honduras's jails in the past few days. Last week, the government has declared a state of emergency in the prison system, transferring control to military and police forces in an effort to combat the surge in violence. The death count from the recent prison gang fight stands at 16, along with 2 injured. Six people have been killed and several have been wounded in a car explosion in the Syrian town of Suluk. Turkish troops were seen firing guns in the air in order to disperse crowds gathered at the explosion site. Suluk is one of the 3 key towns controlled by the Turkish-backed troops. The Turkish team was in Russia for talks on conflicts in Syria and Libya, and as per reports, tens of thousands more Syrians are heading to Turkey, which is already host to the world's biggest refugee population. The Syrian Civil Defense Force, also known as White Helmets, have released a video showing the recent devastation in the town of Marit al-Numan in northern Syria. The town was subject to a continuous bombardment and air raids over the past week, causing massive destruction to civilian infrastructure. Thousands of civilians have now fled the town, fearing the bombing campaign, which has included airstrikes, barrel bombs and shelling. Nearly 100 French Holocaust survivors gathered in Paris on Monday to celebrate the second night of Hanukkah, also known as Jewish Festival of Lights. France's chief rabbi led brief prayers as candles were lit by 2 Holocaust survivors. He compared the survivors to the lights of the candles, transmitting their experiences and their memories of the Holocaust to others. The event in Paris and similar events that took place in Munich and Jerusalem were all organized by the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany. Amid the prayer and songs, several Holocaust survivors recounted their memories of the war. Flash floods and heavy rains have delayed dozens of flights and disrupted some services at the Florida airport. The Fort Hollywood International Airport tweeted that it was closed due to flash flood and severe rains. The airport has issued an advisory that said more than 150 of its flights were experiencing weather delays and 11 flights had been cancelled. Santa Claus village in Lapland receives about 500,000 letters and wish list every year. This year, most of the festive mail arrived from China, Poland, Italy, UK and Japan. In late November, there were fears an over 2-week strike by Finland's postal workers may delay letters reaching Santa Claus main post office. According to the capital city's tourism and marketing company, more than 500,000 people visit the village every year to meet its Santa, play in the snow and get into the festive spirit. Before departing on his sleigh, the attraction Santa shared his festive message to people around the world. He said, "Nature is our friend and we have to help our friend."
Merry Christmas.
Hundreds of nativity scenes crowd the home of MAYHEM Valencia in the Peruvian capital of Lima. Some of the 333 nativity display shows a very South American savior. His cradle watched over by the alpacas or with the Amazonian serpents. Nearby, scattering multicolored parrots. Some are extensive, at least one fits into a quail's egg. In fact, it spends about a month each year setting up the extensive collection on the ground floor of her home. She said she started the collection 28 years ago. And she does not even charge an entrance fee to visitors, who are mostly neighbors.